Greetings, friends, and Firebirds fans, and welcome to the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Fire and Ice, the official podcast of your Coachella Valley Firebirds, two-time defending Western Conference champions of the American Hockey League. Coming to you from Palm Desert, California, a mere Jacob Melanson game winner away from the Birds home ice. I'm your host, Judd Spicer. Along with this endeavor, also again have the pleasure of serving as your Firebirds Insider. Those Firebirds Insider articles may be found online, as with all things Coachella Valley Firebirds, at cvfirebirds.com. That's your hockey home and your hub for everything, including, certainly not limited to, tickets, roster information, community, merchandise. Again, get all that online at cvfirebirds.com. Per the presenting sponsor of this endeavor, Desert Willow Golf Resort, right here in sunny Palm Desert, California, home to the Mountain View course, home to the Firecliff course, home and host to the awesome and on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy. You can find all that information, make the tee times online at desertwillow.com. All right, we're down to the nitty. We're down to the gritty. The rubber meeting the road. 2 games in to these divisional semifinals. Birds and Abbotsford Canucks tied at a game apiece as the series now moves north of the border for Game 3, getting underway this Wednesday night at the Abbotsford Center. Here to discuss not just a round table, but a huge table of guests joining yours truly. That includes Tim O'Brien. Yeah, we know Tim, lead sports anchor at NBC-Palm Springs. Also your in-arena host at Acrisure and your rinkside reporter for the Firebirds. Andrew John. Haven't seen Andrew or talked to Andrew, heard from Andrew on the Fire and Ice podcast for a spell. Andrew, of course, a reporter locally for the Desert Sun. Patrick Williams. Haven't had him on for a minute. He is your features writer at AHL.com. For FloHockey, NHL.com, and Points Beyond. Going to get Patrick's impressions on this series from the national perspective. And our guy Shad Powers, columnist for the Desert Sun newspaper, per Andrew L. John's work. I always forget to call Andrew L. John. That's his official name. That's his professional name. We don't know what the L stands for. Anyway, per Andrew's work, Shad's work may also be found online at desertsun.com. As reference, friends, the series tied 1-1, Game 3 in Abbotsford this Wednesday, May 7th, 7 p.m. puck drop. Game 4, no longer if necessary. This game will be played Friday night, this Friday, May 9th. Sticking in Canada, the rest of the games, all of them, if needed, will be played north of the border, of course, in this 2-3 best-of-5 series format. Friday night, CV at Abbotsford, also 7 p.m. Pacific start. Then, if needed, Game 5, a deciding Game 5. Ooh, that would be a big one. If needed, CV at Abbotsford this Sunday, May 11th, 7 p.m. Pacific puck drop. Per Games 1 and 2, got a lot of exciting action, got a lot of exciting ice at Acrisure Arena over the course of this week. Birds, of course, got Game 1 underway with a Ryan Winterton goal early. Great to have Ryan back in the lineup and back in the building. Birds then subsequently gave up 3 straight to the visiting Canucks before losing said Game 1 in 3-1 fashion. Game 2, of course, and many of you know this already. These are brief recaps. Game 2, Birds got off to a stellar start. 3 goals early from 3 different defensemen. Some unusual suspects getting on the score sheet. And Abbotsford, of course, came back. They tied it 3-3 and then took a lead 4-3 before the Birds tied it up 4-4 late with about 5 minutes to go before ultimately taking it a few games into the first overtime. Beautiful forecheck from Luke Henman on that play and a terrific wraparound goal from the aforementioned Jacob Melanson. And I tell you what, friends and Firebirds fans, the noise in that building with the game-tying goal, the noise in that building for Melanson's game-winning goal, yeah, gave me some goosebumps. Gave me some memories, gave me some chills of recent yore, and reminded me of all the great games, of all the great times, of all the great experiences, and of all the magic that we've so enjoyed and come to appreciate across the 2 years previous in our deep Calder Cup Finals playoff runs. It's still there. Let's not forget, there's something about this franchise, there's something about this team that's bigger than us. That's bigger than just hockey. There's something about the Firebirds that has a way of electrifying and galvanizing the home sands of our Coachella Valley. A couple numbers for you before we get to this big media roundtable. Ben Myers, he is your leading playoff scorer for the Birds across 4 games. We're including the first 2 in the series victory over Calgary in the opening round, and then the first 2 games of this Abbotsford series per all these stats. 4 points, 1 goal, coupled with 3 assists for Ben. We've got 4 fellas with 3 points apiece. That includes Mitchell Stevens, more on Mitchell in a moment, John Hayden, Jacob Melanson, and Jagger Furcus, all with 3 points. Mitchell Stevens, don't expect to see him again anytime soon. The last time we saw Mitchell, looking sharp, dressed in all black, I might add. Kind of a cowboy look. Although that heels obviously as fast as possible. Geez, we'd love to see Mitchell Stevens back in a Birds jersey before this season is over. Mitchell Stevens not alone in something of the walking wounded for the Firebirds here in this postseason. Max McCormick, haven't seen Max for a spell since mid-January. Leighton Road, last time I saw Leighton had a sling around his arm. Obviously would also love to have him back in a CV sweater sometime soon. Cale Fleury, this one of interest, if not some concern. Did see Cale in both of the games versus Calgary. Have not seen him in either of the games versus Abbotsford. Listed as day-to-day with the proverbial upper body injury. But that day-to-day is now 10 days and counting. It will be 11 days come tomorrow, Wednesday, Game 3 versus Abbotsford. Obviously, very, very much hope to see Cale Fleury back in the Birds lineup. All right, dudes, all that offered, all that preface, let's get to this episode's mid-series division semis media roundtable. All right, Firebirds friends, as offered earlier this episode, it's not merely a roundtable, a mid-series media roundtable. It's a mid-series media huge table. Joining yours truly on this episode of Fire and Ice, we've got our man Tim O'Brien, lead sports anchor at NBC-Palm Springs, your in-arena host at Acrisure, and the rinkside reporter for the Firebirds. Andrew John rejoins the program, Andrew, reporter for the Desert Sun. Patrick Williams with a national purview on the American Hockey League. Patrick, of course, return guest, features writer at AHL.com, FloHockey, NHL.com, and Points Beyond. And Shad Powers, Shad Powers, columnist for the Desert Sun newspaper. Per Shad and Andrew, find their work online at desertsun.com. Already, it's getting lengthy and just introducing the roundtable. So let's dive right into it, dudes. Series tied 1-1, now moving north of the border. Let's assess what has now become a best-of-3 series in this divisional semifinal, Birds and Canucks. Tim O'Brien, let's get underway with you. Your impressions on the series thus far.
Yeah, I thought the back end of game 1, the Firebirds played well. They parlayed that into the start of game 2, as we saw. I think they've got to figure out a way to hold on to 3-goal leads in the playoffs. So they got lucky, got out of it to win in overtime. But it's going to be tough. Look, win 2 out of 3 up there. But if they can continue the momentum from the other night into this next game is so important. They win this one, I'm confident to at least get it. I'd say 5. But you lose tomorrow night, then I'd probably have some worry.
Patrick Williams, your thought from the East Coast, sir.
Yeah, I would echo what Tim said. Those 3-goal leads, you can't get yourself into that kind of situation because, I mean, even if you come out, okay from that, you've expended so much energy, effort that you're going to need later on, trying to pull out that game that you could have applied, later on in the series. But hey, you know what? So 1-1, best of 3 series now. Go up there and like Tim said, if you can steal game 3 here, you really do have a good shot now. But yeah, if you lose game 3, I don't see you winning back to back up there. Abbotsford is a very good team.
Shad Powers and Andrew John, we've had our Media Row peanut gallery chatting throughout. Shad, I'll turn this to you. I know some of your thoughts because I sit next to you, but to share it with our listening audience, series is 1-1. Your thoughts thus far in the divisional semifinals?
Well, like Tim said, I think it shouldn't be forgotten that they actually played pretty well in game one. Also, probably had the better run of play throughout that game. Yeah, I don't know why they can't hold those leads better, but I think I got some renewed confidence after watching those two games that they can win this series. Um, One thing about, as we know, is they actually play better on the road this year than they do at home. So that part of it isn't giving me a lot of pause. The fact that they have to play three road games in Abbotsford, I don't feel like that's a big, problematic area for this team. Playing a great Abbotsford team is a problem, but the actual roadliness of it isn't too bad. So that I'm encouraged by that. So I think they are in a okay shape, but of course they had to have won that second game. If they would have lost that one, then that would have been just too devastating.
Andrew John, your series impressions thus far?
I like what I've seen, but I did think that it was really discouraging, obviously, to see them blow another 3-goal lead in that game. It was one of those situations where, yeah, they pulled it out, and that gives them some hope for these final 3 games. But you have to wondering if there's any lingering effects of blowing that lead. I think that does maybe carry into Abbotsford, and I think that there's some serious concern there. That they can't hold a lead. This is twice now in the playoffs in 4 games that they blew a 3-goal lead. Ultimately, ended up winning both of those, but still.
Living dangerously for sure. As Andrew just said, yeah, twice in 4 games happened against the Wranglers. We saw it in game two against Abbotsford, both able to pull it out both times in OT, but that is decidedly living on the edge, certainly in the second season. One metric that really jumps out for me, and this is playoff cumulative. I want to go back to the roundtable and see if I told you this number at the beginning of the playoffs, you'd be like, yeah, I take that, or you'd be like, no, you can't survive with numbers like this. Through 4 playoff games, this is rather unbelievable. Firebirds are 0 for 11 on the power play, yet inversely 10 for 10 on the penalty kill. Tim O'Brien, if I told you those numbers before the playoffs started, would you accept that, or would you think that that's just not sustainable?
No, I would think the penalty kill, you're fine, but you've got to somehow we know power play goals are just huge, especially in the postseason. So I'd say no, it's not acceptable. We can't take it. We'll be out of this thing in 3 games to Calgary if I had known that.
Patrick Williams, you do such a great job crunching numbers throughout the leagues. Do those amaze you, surprise you? Do you think a team can live that way?
I I think you can live that way. I think what a better it all better come out that it kind of balances out. Like where you get into a problem is if you know your power play is not working and then your penalty kill starts to fall apart too. So if you can keep them both kind of at you know uh, 0, -1, or +1, fine. That just kind of becomes a non-issue either way. But uh, it certainly would benefit you if you can at least pull out a goal here or there. You don't expect the power play to start going on a tear, but you need a little bit more juice from it than you're getting right now.
Shad Powers, you've had a ongoing great zinger about this stat throughout the regular season. We can share it with listeners, or you can spare them. I'm going to defer to you. But if I told you those two metrics before the playoffs started, could you live with that?
Well, I think I could live with it. And I also, weirdly, I might not have even been surprised. It has been very stark all year how great they are at the penalty kill and how much they struggle in the power play. It's weird. We were joking that they almost might decline the option. Can we keep it at 5-on-5 instead of going on the power play? That's even I doubt that's an option, but I don't look in the back of the rule book. Maybe you can do that. But yeah, I think we can turn to our leading goal scorer from the year, Yanni Newman, as sort of the guy we count on in power play situations, and he's been a little quiet in the playoffs, more than a little. So I don't know if he sort of hit a rookie wall. Other teams are paying extra attention to him because of his track record. So I'm not sure they just, when they're on the power play, they're moving around well, but I just don't feel like someone's ready to finish. And he's usually the guy, and he has not been in the playoffs. So that's kind of attributes to the O for.
Andrew John, 0 for 11 on the power play, 10 for 10 on the penalty kill. Your assessment of those numbers. And I'll ask you, because you're going last, something's got to give on one of those sooner or later.
Absolutely. And to Shad's point about Yanni, he hasn't scored a goal in his in the playoffs so far. I can't help but look at the correlation, because he had 9 power play goals during the regular season, was very solid. He was definitely their gunner on the power play. And then with him really hitting this cold streak and has not been able to generate much offense in the postseason, of course, it coincides with them being ineffective on the power play. They were so good on the power play when he was really in the zone kind of midway through the season. But I don't think it's sustainable, really. I don't think they can win this series without a single power play goal. Now, I guess technically, yeah, that they certainly can, but it just seems unlikely, because even though they've been playing really well 5-on-5, that's so hard to do, I think, to continue winning when you're not getting special teams goals.
You guys both segued to my next point and next question. Yanni Newman, 4 playoff games, 0 goals to show for the Firebirds regular season leading goal scorer. Just 1 point across these 4 games. Who's got 1 assist, does Yanni. At the same time, we've got contributions from what I think is safe to say some unusual suspects. Tim O'Brien, how do you assess that? And I think we can specifically reference, hey, those first 3 goals in game 2 coming from 3 different defensemen.
Yeah, it was cool at the end of game one. The theme, other than short-term memory, was we got to get pucks in. We got to get them deep. We got to get. So the defense went out, just took it upon themselves, and just blasted 3 home and got pucks deep. But to circle back to Yanni, look, nobody's 100% healthy at this point in time. But there was a moment where I saw there was a race for a puck, and Yanni Newman beats anybody to that puck 10 out of 10 times, and he was about 4 stick lengths behind. So I don't know if there's something nagging him, or we don't know that for sure, but you can tell he's not at the top of his game right now. And it would be nice if he could turn that corner here for this little stretch.
Patrick Williams, in your coverage of the Calder Cup playoffs over many years, how important is it to get contributions from unlikely guys, unlikely contributors to win playoff games and extend playoff series?
It's all but essential. If you don't have that, your chances of going very far are slim, because most likely, like your top 6, at least one of those lines are probably going to get nullified or shut down. I mean, the thing with playoffs is not only is obviously the level of play elevated, but the opponent has anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 games to really key in on your lines, on your tendencies, really kind of figure out what works, what doesn't, and so you can't necessarily expect that that top 6 to give you a lot. So it is that bottom 6, the defenseman guy, the unlikely suspects contributing. That's absolutely essential.
Shad Powers, we have our little game along with Andrew John about who we think is going to score the Firebirds' first goal before every game. I think you were right, kind of retroactively one night, but some of these goals, some of these contributions, not from guys that were certainly expecting. Are there maybe future goals coming as early as game 3 from guys that we aren't expecting?
It's possible, and I want to give a little bit of credit to Derek Laxdal. He's not sitting around and handing in a lineup and watching it happen. He's doing a lot of moving and shaking. I mean, he changed 3 guys out from the line from game 1 to game 2. In the game, he's really shutting down that 4th line and scratching and clawing, trying everything you can think of. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting from him. And I, we don't always talk about that, when it comes to him. So you can really see that he's trying things. So with that in mind, I mean, there could be a guy scoring the first goal in game 3 that hasn't played yet, for as far as I know. So like, it's fun in a way to see these new guys, some guys getting their first ever playoff game experience, some guys making their Firebirds debut. Even it's wild to see, but he's keeping us on our toes as far as who's going to be out there. So it's hard to predict that first goal, but I will give him credit for trying things and trying to make moves that he thinks will work. So well, I don't want to keep talking about it, but yeah, he's done a good job in this playoffs as far as like going after it.
Andrew John, turn it back to you with the same question, along with the observation that we referenced Yanni Newman, no goals. Ben Myers, our leading scorer in both the regular season and the playoffs, he has 1 goal thus far through 4 postseason games. Can we keep hoping for, anticipating, counting on goals coming from unexpected places, or do we basically need these two guys to start putting in the net?
The interesting thing about this roster, how it's made up, is it's one of the youngest in the American Hockey League. So if you're looking for guys who are kind of unsung heroes, you're looking at a lot of rookies, guys getting their first taste of the playoffs. And that can, I think, be a lot to expect from some of these guys. But we did see, with Ty Nelson had a beautiful goal in the last game. He's obviously a rookie. Some of these other guys, Jagger Fergus, has been playing well, but has not been able to score yet in the playoffs. I think he's the guy that I would certainly look to. But I certainly think that, some of these guys who we're looking for to score in these next couple games really will need to be guys who are inexperienced and young, kind of maybe having their breakthrough performance in these postseason.
Friends, you're tuning into the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. My Media Roundtable guests, respectively, are Tim O'Brien, Andrew John, Patrick Williams, and Shad Powers. And may I add that because the rest of this series will be played in Abbotsford, if you want to get your Birds swerve on, you want to watch with the like-minded and Firebirds friends locally, check out the Firebirds Bar Network. Find that online at cvfirebirds.com. You got 6 great diverse locales where they're going to be showing these Birds away playoff games. Gents, you referenced the replacements in Game 2. We had a couple of dudes in Messrs. Loshko and Rekhoff who were making their AHL playoff debuts in what was arguably the most important game of the season to date. I think we did a good job querying toward that effect with Derek Laxdal in the post game about how some of these decisions were made. We know the Firebirds are a bit of the walking wounded. We got a lot of injuries right now. I guess I don't want to say argument because as Shad reference, yeah, I mean, it's worked. But I guess the counter argument is that we didn't see either of those two guys really play past the middle of the second period, put so much more onus on the top 3 lines. Do you think this is something that was a decision by Laxdal? It was a cumulative decision. It was forced on the Firebirds lineup. I'm curious as to your impressions about putting a couple guys in like this that haven't shown to date, no fault of them, but they're new guys, they're rookies. But we haven't seen them in this spot before, and if they can be successful. Tim O'Brien, back to you with this question.
Yeah, I think we've learned from Lax that he rewards guys for their efforts, even if it's on the practice rink. So I think this wasn't, I don't think pushed on him. I think it was his decision. You know how he always referenced getting a jump. He wants to give a jolt to some of these guys. So I think maybe he puts them in, but to realize down the stretch how important Game 2 was, and if they are not, maybe they were just a little overwhelmed or not producing the way he had hoped. You've got guys like the John Haydens of the world, who seems like he's on the ice every single second of every game, but he can handle it. And I know, Judd, you had asked, these guys want those minutes at this point in the season.
Patrick Williams, in your experience, again, covering the AHL and these Calder Cup playoffs, pretty atypical in your experience, I think it's assumed to say that in Game 2 of a division semi-series, we're going to see not one, but 2 guys making their AHL playoff debuts?
Yeah, it's definitely on the uncommon side, but it kind of harkens back to your previous question. You're going to need every single player, both in your lineup and on your roster, to be able to contribute at any time. And if circumstances dictate, hey, you got to throw somebody in there for their debut, then so be it. And it's not ideal. And like you said, there is a possibility of some of them getting overwhelmed, but if they can even chip in a little bit, every little bit helps. I mean, we've seen last 2 years, right? Like if you do go on a long run, you're going to need every single player offering something, whatever they have. And the sooner you can do it, early in the playoffs, the better that adjustment period will be for those younger guys.
Shad Powers, when you see a couple of unfamiliar faces in the Firebirds lineup, does that instill some curiosity and excitement for you, or do you get a little bit worried?
Um, I get a little bit worried. I mean, especially from what we're used to of the previous two playoff runs. Obviously there wasn't a need to shuffle things, so we didn't see a lot of this in the last couple of years. So to see it, like you said, used, I mean, from game to game, all four of the playoff games, I think there's been some changes, and I think each night it's Laxdal thinking about what he really wants that night or what he needs that night. Along with the young new guys, don't forget he also put in Ian McKinnon for game two. Immediately got what he wanted out of him, which was to start a fight and get the team riled up. So that was another new someone that didn't play in game one, where he was making sort of a statement change, if you want to call it that. So I think normally it's kind of funny, right? Normally you would be a little nervous about that, but then again, if you think about the guys they're replacing, I know Nathan Villeneuve, for example, and they're switching out young for young, so you don't feel like you're losing ground necessarily with experience in the playoffs. So I think he's Laxdal's just kind of getting a feel each night. Here's what I want. He put in Lashko for game two, and Lashko did score a couple goals in the one game he played for the Firebirds. Maybe he was thinking that I could sneak some offense out of the fourth line. Um, so I just think he's really. I picture Laxdal like staying up late, moving chess pieces around on some hockey board and like coming up with crazy combinations. So we'll see I'm interested to see what he does moving forward. But yeah, on the road in the playoff game is different. Maybe he'll lean more on the veteran guys. So I'll be interested to see what the lineup is tomorrow night.
Andrew John, it was about a month ago, Troy Bodie told me that, yeah, I mean, one of the key reasons Derek Laxdal got this job is because he's been in his career such an effective playoff coach. I think he's reached his respective league finals 7 times in like 24 years, something like that. Do you expect more of the same as we play out this series, that the Birds are going to go into these lineups and these lines specifically with more of the unknowns?
Yeah, I fully expect that. That's I think what we've learned about Lax this year is that he keeps his cards close to the vest. He is very interested in experimenting, but won't let on about. And a lot of coaches are like that. I mean, he's not unique in that way, but I know that is one thing we know about him, is that he has some tricks up his sleeve that he will pull out. I thought it was interesting last year when we saw Leighton Road come into the playoffs, filling in for an injury, and he did give a nice little spark despite having really not played with the team for much of the season. I think Lax sees that that's a possibility with some of these other young guys. And I think that it'll be interesting, as Shad alluded to, just to see how different the lineups are over the next couple of days, because I really do think there will be a few things we haven't seen.
Touch upon an intangible here, gentlemen, and this is cool because we get both a local and national perspective on this one. When the Birds came back to tie the game at 4-4 with about 5 minutes left, and then ultimately took the game in very exciting fashion in overtime, felt a little bit of that electricity, felt a little bit of that magic, if I may say, that I think rekindled maybe from our previous two runs. And this is germane to Patrick Williams because he's been here for the Calder Cup playoffs. He's been here for the All-Star game. He's got a sense of that Firebirds' brief but brilliant history and the magic that we've seen and felt and experienced and enjoyed here in Palm Desert. Tim, are you feeling that magic still in season 3?
Yeah, I think more so the overtime winner against Calgary. Okay, that was fun. But yeah, game two the other night was unbelievable. In fact, I was in the tunnel there because I had to get the 3 stars, and Lax gave me a whack, man. And those paws hit me so hard, and I was like, all right, we're back. Like I felt it, man. Like this is it. Go on a run now.
Don't forget, that's the same guy that dueled with Clark Gillies and one of the Suter brothers as well. So
Yeah, I
he's
felt
got
it.
some bear paws. Patrick Williams, from your spot covering the whole league, from your time here in Palm Desert, you think that the Firebirds in year 3, as we moved on from some things, still have a magic to them?
Yeah, I do. And I think a lot has been made this year of kind of this transition from what was obviously a very veteran team, a very sort of non-traditional setup because of Seattle being an expansion team, and now you're moving into a more standard development type model. But yeah, absolutely. Like playoffs, are what it's all about, right? Regular seasons for development. Todd Nelson, head coach in Hershey's, called it the regular season essentially just a dress rehearsal for what really counts, and that's so true. It's just a completely different energy in the playoffs, and really, it's where players make their reputations. It's not so much what you do in the regular season; it's what you can do, come April, May, and June, as we've seen, and we've seen how many players just with Coachella alone really use a great playoff performance to vault themselves either to a higher role the following season in Coachella or all the way up to Seattle or elsewhere. So it's there's nothing like it. And this is, I think, really where you see players, kind of make or break their careers.
Shad Powers, you feel those old yet familiar goosebumps and some of the electricity when the Birds tied and ultimately won game 2?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I think I could see it in Jacob Melanson's eyes in the post-game press conference. He's a monotone type of guy, but you could see that there was like behind his busted up face, you could see that he was smiling, behind his eyes a little bit of a spark that I hadn't seen in post-gamers from any of the veteran guys. So I feel like that the way that game played out, of course, it was a disaster waiting to happen that they pulled out of the fire. Maybe because of the way that happened, they can sort of galvanize around that rally and make that sort of the pivotal moment of an upward turn. So, and counteracting their theme of the playoffs, I would say don't have short-term memory after that one. Let it let it ride up into Abbotsford and sort of feel that vibe. But yeah, I felt like there was something different about the vibe of the players after that second game. That gave me, yes, exactly kind of what you're describing, that harkening back to the thrill of last year's runs.
Andrew John, while you were meeting and making deadline after game 2, you said to me in passing, not verbatim, but basically you'd never seen me so nervous during a game. I was pacing around a lot, may have taken a nibble out of a fingernail, and you're probably right. I was nervous. And then we had a very brief conversation after that in concurrence that for us to have lost that game, for the Firebirds to have got behind 0-2, that's just not how we roll. That's not how this franchise rolls. Did that, what became a comeback victory, did that show you something, that there is still magic in this franchise? There is still that same magic in that building?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, we had talked, Shad, and you and I and Shad had discussed a little bit during the course of these playoffs that there is just a different feel this year because you see Andrew Podorowski leave, goes and wins MVP, and obviously that, you're happy for him, but disappointed that the Firebirds didn't stick with him. And you see Max McCormick, the captain, has been injured since January. It just, some of the guys you really relied on, in addition to other guys who've left, they just aren't there. And that's a little troublesome when you get to the playoffs, these guys you really count on. But then you look at the roster and you see there's a lot of talent still on this team. Guys just have not really had the opportunity to show it. This is now that opportunity. So it is exciting to see that they're still fighting. There's still guys making plays out there. And there's guys who are capable of making them in these next few games.
Gents, we'll get out with this one. The series now best of 3 in Abbotsford. Bird's going to make that appearance in the division finals for a third consecutive year. Tim O'Brien, your thoughts?
Oh boy. Win tomorrow. I'm confident, but to do it 3 years in a row, I don't know.
You heard it here first.
You have to make a prediction here, Tim.
If they're going to get back to the finals?
If we're going to get back to the division finals, are we going to win this Abbotsford series?
Yeah, but
Patrick Williams, your thoughts? Can the Birds keep playing?
I think they can keep playing. I think it comes down to a lot of the issues you've raised here. Just that the power play, you really need a little bit out of it, and If they can do that, yeah, I can think they could take the series. I'm not going to bet on that happening though, so I'll go Abbotsford 5.
Okay, contrarian. Chad, are you going to stick with Tim or are you going to roll with Patrick?
I think I'm gonna stick with Tim on this one. We've gone this whole show and haven't even talked about goalkeeping, but I'm feeling pretty good about Nikkei Coco. They actually, as we know, substituted out their goalie after one period yesterday. So I don't know if there's, a flux there that they're, there's just not a high confidence level on their goalkeeping, perhaps. So I think that might be an edge. Like I said before, I play well on the road. Maybe there's a little less pressure for them on the road. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to say yes, they will pull this one out I guess it's hard not to say 5. I don't think they're going to win 2 in a row. So let's say 5 for the Firebirds.
Lastly, Andrew John, we take it to you. Are you with Shad and Tim, or are you going to go with Patrick Williams on this series outcome?
I'm gonna go with Patrick on this. I am a bit of a contrarian, so I will go with that. But also, I just think I will go Abbotsford in 5 as well, just because I do think they will split the next 2 games, and I just think a clinching game on the road against a very good team is maybe just a little much for a team that is, struggling with some injuries, relying on a lot of youth. To Shad's point, Coco's played really, really well. I think if they do win the series, he's gonna have to really have the series of his life, or the next 3 games are gonna have to really, really be good for him, and he's capable of doing that. But in terms of the goals, is going to be tough to come by, I still feel, on the road.
Nikkei Coco 3-1 in these playoffs, 2.12 goals against, save percentage of .917, all rookie team. He's continued it into the playoffs. Yeah, dudes, it would be great to have Mitchell Stevens. It would be especially great if we get Cale Fleury back. If indeed we see Cale Fleury back in a bird sweater tomorrow night, I'm going to stick with my original prediction on this series and call it Firebirds in 5. I guess we'll all wait and see. Tim O'Brien, Andrew John, Patrick Williams, Shad Powers, an awesome round table, an awesome big table. Thank you all so much for your time, fellas. Let's enjoy the rest of these division semis.
All right, thanks, Doug.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Firebirds flock. It's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. I neglected to mention on the episode most recent, and I will digress now, but that past episode, getting the Abbotsford series underway with guest Brandon Byro, that was episode number 50 of the Fire and Ice podcast in the nearly 3-year history of this program. Not going to hurt my shoulder slapping myself on the back over that. Just thought I would mention it. Additionally, want to mention how grateful and appreciative I am for your continued interest, your support, your ears. Hopefully, goes without saying, but very, very thankful for those all around the desert, all around the country, and in certain instances, all around the world, listening to this program, supporting the Coachella Valley Firebirds. I think we got 34 countries, downloads from 34 countries and / territories that have tuned in. Enhanced gratitude undoubtedly goes to the presenting sponsor of this endeavor, Desert Willow Golf Resort. You know that I love a great putt-to-puck segue. Go tee it up over at DW, the Mountain View course, the Firecliff course, and then skate it on over for what we hope and perhaps trust will be further Birds playoff games at Acrisure Arena, just 3 miles away from the Birds base is Desert Willow. Get those tee times online at desertwillow.com, and when you're poking around, be sure to check out the excellent and on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy for all your swing, lesson, and tutelage needs. Further appreciation goes to this episode's guests, Tim O'Brien, Andrew John, Patrick Williams, and Shad Powers. Follow all of their respective work throughout these Calder Cup playoffs and year-round as well. These guys are working year-round, not just working during the playoffs. We've got these 3 upcoming games, perhaps fewer. We will find out soon enough. Schedule reminder gets underway. Game 3 of the Birds and Canucks series this Wednesday, May 7th. CV at Abbotsford, 7 p.m. puck drop. Game 4 will be played, no longer if necessary. Remove the asterisk Firebirds at Canucks this Friday, May 9th, 7 p.m. start. And then, if needed, a deciding Game 5 will be played this Sunday, May 11th, Coachella Valley at Abbotsford, 7 p.m. Pacific start time. And friends, for those watching here locally in the desert, you want to get together with your Birds buddies, with the like-minded, you can do so at the Firebirds Bar Network that presently includes 6 participating local saloons and venues, a couple burgers and beers locations. We got the tap room at Spotlight 29, Rock's Firehouse in Palm Desert. Dig that spot right off of Cook. A lot of very, very nice people over at Rock's. Not to mention some great food, some great drinks. Rock's Firehouse in Palm Desert, among those participating in the Firebirds Bar Network, be a great place to watch the game this Wednesday night, this Friday night. Playoffs in Desert Hot Springs. Yeah, you might remember yours truly, along with Shad Powers from appearing in Bar Rescue over at Playoffs a little while ago. Those, among others, all part of the Firebirds Bar Network. You can find that listing, as with all things Coachella Valley Firebirds, at cvfirebirds.com. Still deciding which one I'm going to go to, or which ones I'm going to go to watch Wednesday, Friday, and if needed, Sunday night. Friends, thank you again so much for tuning in. Appreciate all your time. And, well, if past equals prologue, there's going to be some more Firebirds home games in our near future as they delve deeper into these Calder Cup playoffs. Until then, and always, remember, one valley, one team, rising together.